Wood is an interesting material. It's one of my favorites to paint because of all the different shapes, details, and color that can appear within. And there's so many types of trees and types of grain, and depending on how it's cut or if it's polished or treated, will affect the look of the wood a great amount. So in this case here, we're going to do some bark, such as the outside of a tree. I'm going to start off with a portion of a cylinder for the main shape and use a soft brush to round out the form before we start painting over it. That way we could kind of visualize the shape right from the get-go. So one thing that can be very helpful in many types of textures is to give the base surface some interest. So essentially doing an underpainting to give it some variance that'll help us later when we return to paint some more details in. So just kind of going across the surface, choosing some different hues here and there, eyedropper tool, and scattering some colors, even if it's really low contrast right now, but just getting it in there. That way, when we draw on top, it'll already be there behind it all that we can use again for color picking. So after some light roughing in, and you can really take this as far as you want, I'll start to go in and draw in some of the bark and make it start to feel more like wood. I'll go back and forth with the darks to push it in and light colors to pull out edges. Kind of like sculpting on a flat plane. I find it helps me to think of it that way, kind of like pushing in the form and pulling it out. I don't necessarily take anything too far yet. Kind of working at a low contrast lets me be rough with it and take more risks. And then over time, we build up the lightness. Right here, I decided to throw in some green tones to give a feel of light overgrowth or moss or something to add interest. Looking up at the reference there, I really liked how the green was kind of creeping up the side of the wood, so I thought that'd be a fun thing to add. And so at this point, I'm just kind of glancing back at the reference for some inspiration as I continue rendering the surface. With wood in particular, I generally want to keep things pretty muted in terms of value. Nothing super bright or super dark. Later on, I'll push in the darks a bit more. But wood in general, not super shiny or anything. Just going in, finessing some edges. Just looking to add some just surface detail. Wood can have a lot going on, and it's something that you could just have fun with and just throw in some colors and shapes and see what sticks. But take inspiration from the photos or other trees you've seen and the kind of shape language that they have. You could look at the surface and say, okay, what kind of colors does it kind of switch back and forth between? Maybe there's some more reds in some spots. Some areas are a little more green or desaturated. And then you can kind of go in with a rough brush and just throw those colors in there and get that feel. So here I'm switching my blend mode of the brush itself to overlay um, to add some emphasis to the curvature and pull out the form a little more. I noticed it was getting a little flatter after I painted over the initial soft brush. So I'll go in and just hit it a few times to round out the shape. I'll also add a little more saturation sometimes when using overlay just to add a little more color into it. Right here I'm deciding that it would read better overall just to give it some thickness. It also seemed like it'd be a little fun, so I just kind of add a tiny bit of perspective and like a top lip to it. So again, I just want to reiterate, make sure you grab reference beforehand, especially if you're looking to capture the feel of certain types of wood. In this case, it's kind of bark. It's kind of a hybrid, to be honest, but having that available to you on your other screen or even on the same screen, like here in the same document, um, can be a boon because you can glance over at it while you're painting and it'll help you make better decisions. That way, when your audience looks at it, they'll say, okay, I see a more informed painting. I recognize those kind of colors and shapes. It seems, feasible to me, and it reads as the material that you're hoping it to be, which in this case would hopefully be wood.